All right. Yeah. So I'm just closing apps.
Cool. All right. Money Mobsters,
Money Mo-
episode lucky number 13.
Yeah,
We're
buddy.
uh we're back here doing the thing. Um yeah, Dougie, how was your weekend of monitoring the situation?
I failed to monitor situations.
It's too much. Like honestly, like so much happens in a 24-hour cycle. It's very difficult to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
But
And then I didn't, and then I realized I didn't care because everyone, it's just, everybody's having political theater over it. The real thing is, Farzad having his epic rant, and that's all I need to say about it.
oh, that was good. That was good. I liked Farzad's rant.
Yeah. So I don't have anything to add above and beyond.
To summarize it for people who did not see Farzad's rant, he is very displeased with the side of the aisle that claims to love feminism and then sides with people who, uh, let's just say, absolutely reject women's rights in every single way. Um, so yeah, it kind of falls in the same bucket as like the queers for Palestine thing, I think. But yeah, so on the show today, we are going to go over some Joe Lonsdale. He did an interview, so we'll go over some of what he said. We've got Noto. He made a move on SoFi, so that's shaping up to be very interesting. We had just a few hours ago a Robinhood event, so we'll try and cover the highlights of what happened there, as well as Jensen having a quote today at the Morgan Stanley conference. So we'll start with you wanted to start with Joe Lonsdale, right? I think that was the real meat and potatoes.
Yeah, his I get to listen to it last Saturday, and man, it was really good. It's with one of the founders of Open Door. So some good entrepreneurial stuff there. Who had actually worked for Joe right out of college. So I thought that was interesting as well. Like that guy, Joe Lonsdale is like the networker of networkers. Like everybody knows him. I don't know how he's done so well at that. I wish I had
I mean,
skills.
a little bit of luck, a little bit of skill, and you know, being in the right place at the right time, and also working really hard. The guy's
Yep.
pretty relentless, right?
Yeah.
And he hasn't had like a real W-2 9 to 5 job in such a long time that I think, if you were to get back 40 hours a week, I think you can get a lot more done than you think you can get done if you just had an, like an open schedule indefinitely.
Yep.
Did so this was which podcast was this? This was, you said, with the Open Door founder.
Yeah.
Um, and how did that conversation go? What were they talking about? What were the main takeaways?
They were mostly talking about just kind of the guest history and life and how they knew each other, and then kind of that person's career getting started working for Joe at what was the name of that company? Um, look to me, yeah, Adapar, and then moving over to found Open Door, and it was a lot more like personal stuff. But they did come across brought up a couple of topics, particularly in the AI and agentic AI world that I had not considered yet, and kind of blew my mind a little bit to the point where I was like, okay, well, some of this stuff is going to have to we're going to have to change the way that we live in the world because of this.
Okay, so what were the takeaways there with the agents and how that is going to be changing things?
The main one was that as agents take on more and more, start doing more and more work and automating more and more things in our lives, it's going to be actually in, human face-to-face contact, or that is going to become the real value, because the spam it is going to go off the charts. I mean, we live in a world now of MailChimp and all these other companies that are ripe for agentic AI disruption. And when that happens, think about all of the spam you're going to receive from now every little company that wants to do business with you, because it's going to cost them next to nothing.
Right.
And that's going to be SMS and phone numbers and mail, and it's going to be a human voice on the other end of the line when they call you, and you're not going to know if you're talking to a real person or an AI. It's the only way you're going to know whether or not you talk to a real person.
I get 10 to 20 a week now.
Face to face.
It's unreal. 10 to 20 a week now.
Yeah. And
like
so
either voicemails or some sort of garbage text message saying, "Hey, can we see that you're a homeowner? Can we trim your trees?"
Yeah, and that's just like regular spam. Yeah, think about when it becomes agentic spam.
Yeah, and it's even cheaper to do it.
Yeah, and it's going to be running 24/7, and every business in the world is going to have one. It's going to be crazy. What's up, folks in the chat? There's June Landon, Cameron Vincent, PB Hakta, Venom.
Oh, we got Rent in the chat as well, too.
Yep. Rent in the chat, yeah.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting, like what the use cases are actually going to be, because, like you said, maybe some of the use cases for agents is good, and people will find good uses for it and will be able to trust it. But I think that there's going to be certainly a transitionary period where people try things out and, like, they dip their toe into the water and they see if it works a little bit. Or maybe consumers, like maybe a business builds an agent designed for a specific task, and then consumers just flat out reject it.
Yeah.
Just due to trust issues, privacy, or maybe there's too many different avenues that add complexity that the agent can't do, that they just want to have control over themselves. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they play it. But Anthropic just said that they're like tripling revenue, right? Did I hear that right? Like, it seemed almost fake how fast they are scaling revenue.
Well, those were numbers that we were seeing out of, feel like OpenAI numbers we were seeing earlier, right? I just think that Anthropic has, it may not look like it yet to the average investor or, the average person, but I think Anthropic has run up on them now, run up on OpenAI. Certainly in the space of the people in the know who are the users. So this is kind of akin to everyone used, Netscape until Internet Explorer came along, and then everyone used Internet Explorer. But then the people in the know kind of made the switch from Hotmail and Internet Explorer to Chrome and Gmail, and left them in the dust.
There's an interesting chart that was kind of making its way around. Anthropic is apparently at $19 billion ARR, and just 2 months ago they were at $9 billion. So they've doubled their ARR rate in 2 months, which is a little bit ridiculous. And as you can see in the chart here, these are business AI chatbots based on market share of Invoice. And Oh, wow. Holy smokes, Claude is crushing it. And just other Anthropic. I mean, even look at that. That would be Opus, right? They're in the light tan cream color.
Yeah.
Uh, Something I thought was interesting on this chart is where the hell is Gemini? Is Gemini not going after Enterprise? What are we doing?
Or Grok.
Or Grok, yeah.
We know Grok is running AOL chat rooms. We know Grok is running for government, so
Which makes sense, right? That's where Elon's like motivations lie.
yeah.
So that part makes sense, but yeah, I'm not sure why Google could not go after that same market as well. Maybe they are behind the scenes and we're just not hearing about
Yeah.
it.
Well, if they have, I mean, I know you're like the world's huge Google guy, right? But they never really, I was just talking about how amazing, at least successful Chrome was and Gmail, but they never really were able to compete with Office with the Google Suite for whatever reason. Like they've not been able to capture um, corporate work. Now SMB, sure they do, but um, the large corporations, they have not been able to make a nickel's worth of move into Microsoft's world.
So maybe if Copilot integrations get big enough, and this is kind of almost like remember the whole AI agent um, Pixel phone versus iPhone debate that was going on like maybe 6 months to a year ago. So the idea is if an AI agent and a personal assistant on your phone is so good that it creates a step change improvement in the product, that like could you get people switching off of iPhone because serious shit? Obviously that's been addressed now and Apple's just going to adopt Gemini. But in a similar way, if if the Google suite of products like Docs and Sheets uh, and Slides all becomes integrated with Gemini and they do a really, really good job with it, what I'm noticing is at my work, and I think a lot of people who also have to use Copilot at work will tell you that it's not very well integrated and that the Microsoft applications are far from perfect. I think if there's a step change improvement, you could see Google be able to attack the enterprise. But that's a really tough ask. I mean, Microsoft really has a good lock in there. Like, there's just so many vendors that all build on top of like what they've already built, and organizations have already been using this type of software for so long that it would be a really big ship to turn. I do think it could be interesting though, like that Microsoft doesn't get to own that space forever if they don't do well and other companies outcompete them. It's hard to imagine that, but if anyone is in a position to do it, it does seem like Alphabet could. I'm not saying they will. They would have to execute the shit out of Microsoft, but they're like the only reasonable contender there, I think.
Well, who's going to sell the on-prem it's not exactly the right term, but for the corporate level, but the sovereign AI at the corporate level, right? Who is going to be the provider of that? We probably NVIDIA is in the hardware stack, right? You probably are going to have like smaller CoreWeaves or Nebius because they're not going to be enormous. They're not going to be data centers like the hyperscalers need, but it's going to have to be something on-prem, like for a Chevron, Exxon, BP type corporation, right? I mean, they're not going to let their stuff be hosted in the cloud.
Wouldn't it be more secure on the cloud?
No.
Because those like cloud service providers have more
No. There's
experience
no way a
defending against it?
CTO would let you do that.
Okay.
Because now remember, now you're routing everything to the cloud. That the corporate superintelligence now lives on the cloud, and that all that data is passing out of your custody. I don't see how any CTO would allow that.
Okay, so that's the argument that like Chamath made like about a week or two ago, where if you give all of your data over to the cloud service provider, they're just going to train on your data, and then companies can take advantage of that using distillation of the model to get those trade type secrets, right? That's the argument.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was not that dissimilar from, and God, you were probably like in high school at the time, but the when it came out that the NSA was spying on U.S. citizens, and they were like, "Oh, we're just collecting the metadata. It's not really spying because we're only collecting the metadata." Well, there's a reason they were collecting the metadata, because it was telling them all kinds of things, right? It's like they didn't need to find out that you and I are friends. They just figured out, oh, this phone call, we don't have to listen to the phone calls. We just see what numbers are calling each other and how long they are, and how often they happened. And so they're able to skirt the law. That was Patriot Act there, stuff like.
Yeah, we got a smart 18-year-old in the chat right here, dude. This is good stuff. Here, I'll be right back.
So whenever the government was able to start collecting metadata, they're able to start taking these large pools of data and still finding information from it. And that's what a company like Palantir actually is designed to do. And that's what it does as a specialty, is it takes a bunch of unrelated information, or seemingly unrelated information, and starts finding or seemingly unrelated data, and starts finding information from it that you can then act on.
Anyone who doubted Maven over the last 2 years, they're finding out in real time that Maven is the real deal.
Oh my gosh, are they so finding out?
Did you see this hit my news feed? I haven't had time to look into it, but one of the Bloomberg terminal reprinter sites on X, they said that apparently Anthropic is still currently being used in the Department of War. So
yeah,
it's
again, make me care about something. That's not something you can make me care about. It was like, 2 days ago they decided that they were going to part ways. Well, you know what? We launched major operation and we were using that tool. We're not all of a sudden going to stop using it just because somebody went on a podcast.
Sure. So you think this ultimately all just blows over, and we won't be talking about it at all months from now?
What, Iran or
Anthropic
in the government?
Or either, I guess either, right?
I mean, look, the government didn't use Google for forever. No one talked about that. I'm like, if a company doesn't want the government to, if they issue a certain terms of service, the government doesn't want to adhere to them, just like you and me, they have the option to not use it. And I don't think that the government, just because they are the government, has the rights to force anyone to hand over their work any more than they have the right to take you and my work without paying for it. And if they don't agree to our terms of service, then they don't get to use it.
Well, and you saw Dario even make an argument against that. He tried saying it's not about terms of service, but that's just, I don't think that's an argument that he can make because it very clearly is about terms of service. He's saying you cannot use our product for X and Y. And the reason that's an issue is Karp has talked about this and Palmer has talked about this. Palmer Luckey, that is. You don't want technocrats who own the product to actually have more say over how it's used than the elected leaders of the country. And there was reports going around of saying, hey, can we use Anthropic to stop a nuke? And Dario apparently said, well, if you have a question about it, like, just call me. It's like, that's kind of a bad faith argument because we're going to call you and expect you to pick up in the 60 seconds that we need to make a decision. Like, that's just not realistic. The other part that's not realistic.
Let's not give that argument too much sway. That can be used to justify a lot of different things, and they're all terrible. So, like, I mean,
but this whole idea of like, if you want our
how much torture is allowed to prevent a nuke? Like, what's the line? Where's the line? Okay, and I mean, the guy had a stupid answer, but I still don't think, like, what he should say is, you mean to tell me Anthropic is so much better than all of our rivals that only Anthropic can stop the nuke and no one else can? Thanks. And then move on with the next question, right? Like, don't even it's a bad faith argument, and it's just political theater.
Well, I think right now he has so much confidence that his product is better than everyone else's. That's why he feels the need to like leverage this. And he thinks that he needs to go out and save the world with these terms of service. But the reality is, if Boeing, Lockheed, the aircraft carrier makers, the people who make the bolts that go on the jets, and all, thousands upon thousands of contractors and subcontractors and suppliers to the Department of War, if they all had their own individual requirements of what their products can and can't be used for, you'd end up with, a matrix that would crash your computer when you try to go on a mission trying to figure out like what's acceptable and what's not to everybody.
But remember how all those other companies, and here's another, what I thought was a bad faith argument. Remember how all those other companies come up with their products? The government pays for them ahead of time.
Okay.
They pay for their development, their time, their cost plus contracts to develop weapons. So yeah, obviously the same rules are not going to apply. Like, Palantir built Gotham to be used as a weapon, okay, or to be used by the military. They developed Maven to be used by the military. That's built into the terms of service, right? Microsoft didn't build Windows to be used by the government. They've taken a commercial product and they're trying to use it, to run various weapons and everything off of. At best, it's morally gray, but it is certainly not a quick haha, got you caught in a logical fallacy type of thing. At least not to me. That's more like a debate camp trick. Check with Ahmed to see if it's legit. But yeah, to me that's a bad faith argument if we're trying to like get to truth and live in a society together.
Here's a clip from Karp. I've actually got two clips from Karp talking about this because obviously Karp has given considerable thought to this, seeing as how it's right in his strike zone here. So this is the first clip.
Should not also decide who lives in your country and on what conditions. There are elections, there are rules, they should be enforced. A transfer of one presidency to another, and the view of Silicon Valley that we get to decide should not be the way these things are decided. Of course, this led to protests. My house has been protested for many months, almost every day. Our offices have been protested. Many Palantirians who do not just follow what I say, but are critical people, protested against it internally. Some people were so upset by it that they left. These are very hard decisions. I respect the people that decide they can't be involved in this, but we have a position.
And are you comfortable, though, with the Trump administration's approach on the border?
Look, everybody who knows me personally like you knows that I've been a card-carrying progressive my whole life. My family is progressive. I have a degree in what amounts to progressive thought. Obviously, there are many things I would do differently, and I've never stopped being critical of this administration. I'm not planning to vote for this administration. So there are things I do differently. The core issue, though, is who decides. And to the people who want to reduce the complexity, it's commonly known that our software is used in operational contexts at war. Do you really think the warfighter is going to trust a software company that pulls the plug because something becomes controversial with their life? Currently, when you're a warfighter, your life depends on your software. They will never trust you if you pull the plug just because you're unpopular.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah, really good point here.
That Silicon Valley is not elected.
Right.
But at the same time, they're the ones who built this, and they built it with their own blood, sweat, and tears, and they should have a way, or should have a reasonable amount of control over how it's used.
Not if you sell to the DOW, though. That's the thing. If you sell to the
if you sell it to the DOW, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, here's the other clip, and here's
So
the previous
am
clip,
I missing something where they've sold it to where they are expecting to have that government revenue, but then they're like trying to put rails on it after the fact?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so what?
So I had an incomplete understanding there. Then okay.
Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
what Dario claims that he wanted was for the DOW to not use Anthropic for two things: mass surveillance domestically, as well as autonomous drones and machines that basically have no human point of contact pulling the trigger when striking. So he wanted those two things. Now that's inconsistent and different than what the Department of War is saying. So it's kind of tricky for like who to believe. Then the Department of War is coming back saying, no, it's not just that, it's more than that, and that they have their own constitution, and that they're essentially trying to control policy because they own the product. They're trying to control policy is the Department of War stance summarized. Elon and Palmer have come out very much against Anthropic for both of these. And here's Karp also, he doesn't mention Anthropic by name, but the previous clip that we just watched was, that was from about 9 months ago. It looked like, I think that was a Davos clip actually. So that would have been, 2 months ago? Davos? Yep. Okay. And this is a more recent one. This is after the whole Anthropic and Department of War thing. This is shorter clip.
Like having a company that thrives in bad times. And we are, bad times are very good for Palantir because we build products that are robust, that are built for danger. And then the finances internally are actually built for bad times. And bad times means you have free cash flow, the free cash flow.
Dude, I love it when I pull up the wrong clip. That's awesome.
Hey, I love it when he's talking about free cash flow, though. So
that was not the clip that I.
Bro says, "Bad times, we have free cash flow." And I'm kind of like, oh man, maybe I should buy some more tomorrow.
Let's try that again.
Now you get to Silicon Valley. My one message for, and again, I'm without getting in specific people, or because I
remember this interview. Yeah.
If Silicon Valley believes we are going to take away everyone's white collar job, meaning primarily Democratic shaped people whom I grew up with, highly educated people who went to elite schools or went to schools that are almost elite who vote for one party, and almost you're going to screw the military. If you don't think that's going to lead to nationalization of our technology, you're retarded. And you might be particularly retarded because you have a 160 IQ. But this is where that path is going. Now,
doesn't that seem really pointed?
Yep.
So, yeah. So what he's saying is, if you're going to cause mass unemployment, and those people who are going to be unemployed are white collar workers who are mostly Democrats, because city work is, most cities vote blue. Cities are where the office jobs and white collar jobs are. So you're going to squeeze the the liberal workers essentially, and at the same time you're going to say, well, we don't actually want to cooperate with the military here. At some point in time, you're just going to end up with the government saying, well, we're going to fix it ourselves. If you guys aren't going to cooperate, we're just going to take the technology, we're going to nationalize it, and we'll figure it out on our own. What, our way or the highway is basically how the government rolls. We might not like it, but that seems likely.
Dr. Carp is my spirit animal, but I don't agree with him on that.
Okay, how come?
I just don't see that is the way. The government doesn't have the expertise to be able to do those things, because that the level of expertise that it takes to develop the bleeding edge products is not ever something the government has working for it. The government has plenty of bean counters and policy wonks. They never have engineers working for them. People who make things don't go work in government. Only people who regulate things or manage things go to government, but not people who make things.
Sure. Speaking of people who regulate and manage things, in the CBS interview, which I would highly recommend you guys watch if you're interested in more of this topic, because I think we're near the end of it. Dario mentioned that he thinks it's the job of Congress to catch up to AI and start legislating this stuff. And I 100% have to disagree, because Congress, when they hauled in Zuckerberg and started questioning him, like they didn't even know how Facebook makes money, and they started asking him questions about the iPhone. These are the last geriatric fucks I want regulating AI, because they don't even understand how regular software works, let alone AI. And also, Congress just moves too slow.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to the commander in chief, that should be who has power over the military. And asking Congress to try to codify AI when it's moving so fast, dude, he's asking for the impossible. Truly, that doesn't make sense.
Asking for, okay, Austin. Your boy Dario is just realizing he's in the lead right now, and he wants Congress to act to cement the fact that he's in the lead and make it so that he doesn't have to compete anymore.
Like regulatory capture. Yeah, it could be that too. That's what David Sachs.
That's what he's asking for. He's asking for full regulatory capture. He's asking for Congress to build him a moat, because he's done trying to. I mean, he's done worrying about whether or not his company is going to exist in 9 months and be caught. He's like, okay, there's 5 or 6 good players now. We don't need any more. Congress, you should definitely regulate this and make it impossible for someone else to make a new thing that I already make. And they probably will. I mean, California will do it first, and then other states will have a framework for it, and we'll do it. And then you'll have a bifurcated legal system that will eventually get rolled back up into a single one when they start, having reciprocity again. So,
well, and this is why the federal government has to actually pass a law saying that this is going to be done at the federal level, not at the state level. Because if they just do it state by state by state, it's going to be chaos and not cohesive, and you'll have 38 different products. Whereas if you do it at the national level, you'll be able to respond a little bit quicker, and it's just something that should be done at the federal level. Like there's no state by state reason that AI should be different in California than it should be in Wyoming. There's no actual reason for that.
Unless you really believe in federalism, which I do, but I can keep two things in my head at the same time, right? What you run into here is a good example to back up what you're saying there is the example of federal fuel standards, right? So federal fuel standards already exist. California decided to go insane and have fuel standards and EV mandates that state pushed out that were absolutely crazy. If there had not been a federal fuel standard already, that California standard would have propagated to a whole bunch of other states locally, because the auto manufacturers and the fuel refiners would have had to make products for the whole region and not just for the local state, because they would have had no other background, and it would have just been easier for them to just make what they make for California. It gets adopted as law by the surrounding states and then just moves west, probably east as well, because probably New York and New England follow it as well. And,
now, to take that further, so they've enacted fuel standards. So let's fast forward the clock to today. What's happening with the refineries in California right now? I think we talked about it on the last show.
Yeah, I mean they're basically all closing.
Yeah.
And this has a little less to do with that. It's just an example of, because the federal fuel standard existed, the rest of the country was not captured by the insanity of California. And when we see what's gone down, and then we look what that insanity has caused for their own state, I don't know if June caught that bit we had a couple of weeks ago. I think it was might have been 2 weeks ago now. It definitely wasn't the Saturday show.
I think so. Yeah, but basically refineries are closing, and then now having to ship fuel all the way around to the port of Panama, through the canal, and then back up the coastline to California, which is obviously not a smart thing to do when you have oil in your own state.
Yep. Yeah. So the domestic refiners are closing June. Like Chevron is trying to sell, and they're ready to roll it up if they can, and just cease operations if they can't sell it. The Exxon is closing, and they're also shutting down the pipelines to bring fuel like diesel and gasoline into California, because they've made it impossible to operate. So the only way to get gasoline in California now is to put it on a tanker ship and ship it there via cargo.
So June just put something in the chat there. They're going to call it a California road charge. They're going to charge you per mile.
Yep. Because so many people switched to EVs that the gasoline taxes that were collected to, like, and the funds they collected it at the pump and used the funds to like repair the roads. Right. So many EVs now are on the road, and they're still creating the wear and tear, but you're not getting that tax money at the pump anymore. So yeah, they're just going to have and then they're also still trying to disincentivize people from driving entirely. So huge problems, all in the name of,
say it, Dougie. Say what it is.
I was just going to say, a bunch of Karens who don't know anything legislating emotionally.
Yeah, how are they even going to enforce this? So, dude, he brings up a good point here. Like, good luck enforcing that. You're going to come check my Jetta every single year to see what the odometer says to tax me?
Yep. Yeah, when you do your annual inspection tag, like you're gonna have, you're just gonna register the mileage. That's one way to do it for sure. If not, have the odometers directly report, real time as it is.
By the way, isn't this the same state that gave like the most credits for people buying EVs?
Yep.
Subsidizing it. So they were okay subsidizing it 5 years ago, but now they're charging you for the product that they told you that they wanted you to have 5 years ago so bad that they were willing to subsidize it. Now it's like, how dare you not pay your fair share for the roads?
Well, this already happened with NEMA 3.0. So they also the residential solar they used to give a bunch of credits for,
Okay.
And now they don't. Yeah, you can't sell it back to the grid anymore. You still have to pay all the taxes on it. I mean, at first it was a really good deal because you could get out of a lot of those expenses and taxes and stuff. But then they realized that it was bad for the power grid and they weren't able to collect the taxes they needed anymore. So just to run the utility as it needed to be run. Yep, transportation of goods will go up for trucking as well.
Yeah, that's
But
a
when
bit.
California fall into ocean.
Yeah, it's a bit gross, to be honest. Like to have a state tell you that they want to incentivize a specific behavior, and to have the very same people running the state. Nothing's changed. It's not like there's been a turnover in administration. It's the same motherfuckers who are then going to be like, oh, okay, well, now you're going to pay a tax for that too. It's
Well, they're about to run all the billionaires out too, which means the millionaires will be the ones left paying the taxes. And by the way, millionaires in California is probably just a homeowner.
right.
Because you're going to be paying taxes based on your wealth as well. Your unrealized cap gains, which would presumably include the unrealized cap gains on your home. Yeah, we're heading down. Like, that state has to figure out how to change. Like, I don't live there. It's a beautiful place whenever I visit it.
Right.
And I mourn for the insanity that the people living there are just like destroying their own awesome place to live by making it just unworkable.
Right.
And it's like they're doing it on purpose, and they celebrate the fact that they're doing it. So I don't understand.
Well, they've gotten away with it for so long because of the technology wave that they've benefited from in Silicon Valley. So they haven't actually had to face the consequences of their mistakes until pretty recently. Like,
well, and the fact they have everything there. They have their own energy. They have great agriculture, right? They have great tourism. Like, I mean, the geography of the area is amazing. And, it's not like there's a political decision that made the sunshine nicer and, no mosquitoes, right? Like, and everyone, people say, oh, everyone wants to live in California. Well, yeah, that's because the weather is amazing, but
yeah,
the weather is not political.
And you've got the Central Valley too. So the Central Valley of California produces like 20% of all agriculture in the country.
It's an amazing place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to hate too much on California. A lot of people live there, and they're,
we're not hating on California.
We give them a bunch of crap, but it's still like a 55-45 state. It's just that the 45 is so entrenched. That
it's been a uniparty for so long. Yeah, and like when I looked at moving in 2021, one of the things that I crossed off my list were like any states that were deeply, deeply blue or deeply, deeply red. I really wanted like a swing state because I feel like that's where you get a lot more reasonable policy. Because if people get too out of hand, like you just have too many independents that don't want to deal with it, and they flip to the other side that will give them the reasonable policies. So, shouts out to Arizona.
Yep, there's something to be said for a state that can change its mind. It certainly is more practical in some senses because they can reverse course if they see they're going the wrong way.
Yeah. Next up, we had just a quote from Jensen that I think is going to be making waves because we had, I think it was back in September when Jensen mentioned, hey, we're going to be investing up to $100 billion in OAI, and we'll do that in $10 billion increments per gigawatt. Now, that fell under pressure a little bit when OpenAI did a deal with AMD and did a deal. They did a deal with ARM, right? And then Jensen came out and basically kind of poured a little bit of cold water on it. And now today we're seeing a total reversal of it, where he says, direct quote, "We're going to invest 30 billion in OpenAI. I think the opportunity to invest 100 billion in OpenAI is probably not in the cards, and the reason for that is because they're going to go public." This was just a very short quote. I didn't listen to the whole Morgan Stanley conference because I couldn't find it. But just based on that alone, the reason for that is because they're going to go public. I'm sure that might have part to do with it, but Jensen already knew that OpenAI was going to go public when he originally agreed to the 100 billion per, or the 10 billion per gigawatt up to 100. So I'm not really sure what's changed.
They tried to play gotcha with him on this before. Actually, I think it was just a few weeks ago. They were trying to play gotcha with him on this as well, saying, "Well, you said it was 100 billion." He said, "No, I said it was up to 100 billion." So does that mean you don't think that AI is real? It's it was a Michael Burry bit. Burry was hammering that bit. So does Michael Burry take a victory lap on this tomorrow when he says, "See, I told you, Jensen thinks OpenAI is nothing"? Well, it's not nothing. He's going to put $30 billion into it.
Do you think part of it could be the fact that they just got a bunch of funding from Amazon and others? Like if they just got a shit ton of funding, what do they really need more money for?
Well, he might not like the valuation he's getting. Like if you didn't like, if you were thinking, okay, I've got, $1 million to put into this private company, and then when you finally see the term sheet, you realize that, they let some other investors out in front of you, and all of a sudden you're getting a different valuation than you thought you were going to. You might be like, I'm not totally against buying this exposure, but I'm not going in all the way. Like, we'll put in a little bit, see where it goes. So I don't think it has a problem. I don't have a problem with him saying 30 billion. I'm just like, look, he's got other money to spend other places. He probably wants to get a piece of Anthropic, is what he probably wants right now.
I'd be surprised if they don't already. Here's the clip from a few weeks ago. It was like a street interview where they tried to do some gotcha work.
Ask quickly about again.
Sure.
So yesterday you said that the NVIDIA is not going to invest as much as 100 billion in OpenAI.
No,
the current run.
we never said we were going to invest $100 billion in one round. That never was said.
But how about the overall commitment? Because last September OpenAI
there was never a commitment. It was if they invited us to. So
I'm sorry. Can we please get the most important man in the world off the middle of the street?
They invited us to.
Can we not get him indoors? Can we not get the most important man in the world indoors, please, and have his security around him? Can we get him out of the middle of the street?
Well, I think if you look right over his shoulder, I bet this guy's security right here where my mouse is, and I bet this guy's security too.
But all those cars are driving by, and you don't know who's in them.
Yeah, that's true.
Invest up to $100 million, and of course we were very happy and honored that they invited us, but we will invest one step at a time.
All right, but
Yeah, I think that clarifies it, but you can see that he's like slowly walking it back a little bit by little here, sort of like reevaluating his options, and it almost feels like Sam screwed him in some way, and Jensen is trying to add some distance in a way.
So if he buys OpenAI, is he also buying NVIDIA? Or not NVIDIA, is he also buying AMD with the ownership share that AMD had to give?
I guess technically he would be.
It's a weird world we live in.
Yeah, their family dinners have to be interesting, man. Jensen and Lisa.
Yep.
Now, one thing that I got to share outside of like the stock world with a bunch of us dorks looking at technology companies and being locked into X is so Selena, she considers herself somewhat, you know, like to be a feminist who doesn't want to be like pro women getting opportunities when in a world where it's just a lot of guys seizing opportunities. So I put her on to Lisa Sue, and I said if you want to have like a girl boss inspo type person, Lisa Sue, you know, not many feminists, if any, actually know who she is, but that's really who they ought to be looking up to because she has just been crushing it for years and years and years. And you know, obviously Lisa and Jensen are cousins,
Right.
and I think that's why I made the interesting, you know, family dinner comment.
Yeah.
But
if you didn't know, Lisa and Jensen are cousins.
yes, and Lisa has done such a great job leading that company. When she says something is going to happen, it happens. Like she doesn't talk out of her ass, so she has a lot of credibility when she says things are going to happen because she's just got such a long history of delivering what she says that she's going to deliver, and she does it in like the most graceful, elegant but confident way. And I really respect Lisa Sue. So yeah, and you can see Lack says the GOAT. I don't own any AMD, but I really respect her leadership style and how she's managed that company over the years.
I don't own any AMD, but I have bought AMD products in the past, and I used to really enjoy building AMD PCs.
The next thing we had here was Noto buying about $1 million of SoFi shares.
Didn't he say he was going to do that on Tanner's pod?
He sure did. Yeah, he basically said, hey, when I'm allowed to buy shares, I'm going to buy some shares. And then he did. And Tanner made a great video about this, posted like a few days ago, mentioning that in the previous times that Noto has gone out and bought shares, he does them in clusters. So he doesn't just make one purchase. He makes like 5 or 6 purchases at a time, almost like a dollar cost averaging type strategy. And I thought that was interesting because that means that there's possibility, obviously not a guarantee, but possibility that Noto will actually make a few more purchases within this time window at these prices. And, you know, just to make it simple, or as my dad would say, keep it simple, stupid. There's a Peter Lynch quote that's super, super valuable here. And it's saying, you know, there's only one reason that people buy shares. Like insiders might sell shares for any reason, but there's only one reason that they buy. They think that the price is going to go up, right? So I think that's incredibly powerful. And this, go ahead.
With the caveat
that
the guy buying the shares knows everybody is wanting to see him buy the shares, and he's trying to drive the price up, knowing it's a signal for people to start buying.
Yeah, and that's true. And I actually had that consideration.
Somebody pushed back and said, "Why did you only buy 1 million?" Right? Like only 1 million.
Well, I had that consideration too when Elon bought shares of Tesla right before his comp package. And, you know, it's like, okay, he just sold shares in 2022, in 2023, and now he's rebuying shares. Yeah, there could be some game factor element going on here, game theory, if you will, that is saying, hey, if I buy shares, then more people will buy. Yeah.
And the algos are going to start bidding it up, whether people think I'm nefarious or not.
But you know, at the end of the day, it is his money that he's putting on the line here. That if he's wrong and he's just buying specifically for that reason, he is going to lose that money. Like, no doubt about it. It's real money that's on the line. And it's not that flexible of a position. When you're a CEO, it's kind of tricky to buy shares and then like months later or even like a year later resell those same shares. Because once you buy shares, like if Noda sells shares within 18 months from now, all the sentiment is going to leave the room, because why did you just buy shares now and then resell them later?
We're going back to $8 or $6.
Exactly. So that's why I say when he buys $1 million of shares, this is him putting his money behind the company, because it's basically illiquid at this point. Unless he really wants to screw over the sentiment of the name, he has to hold these shares, right?
What are the rules for options for insiders? Like if they wanted to sell, if they wanted to cover their position with some calls, or buy a put as insurance, like did they have to disclose that as well? And if they do, what's the time frame for that?
Sure. So most companies do not allow derivative trading on their own company stock. A lot of companies don't even allow margin trading on their own stock. So, and the reason for that is you can imagine a scenario where, say I work for Apple and I have Apple shares in my brokerage account, that margin is turned on. Apple tells me as an Apple employee, I'm not allowed to sell shares for the next 2 months. And say Apple stock drops, or just the market value of my account drops, and I have Apple in that portfolio, they are now in a tricky spot where the broker is going to have to sell me out of my position to cover the margin call. But oops, the problem is I'm in a trading window blackout. My company says I can't sell my shares. What do? So there's the other issue where with derivatives, well, it's actually a similar issue with derivatives. You just run into all sorts of stuff where people know things and they'll bet one way up or down, and you really just don't want that happening within the company. Now, how most of these executives will actually go about exercising their options and RSUs is through 10b5-1 plans, where you're letting the SEC know exactly what you're going to do and when. So you submit this form into the SEC and you say, hey, 60 days from now, I'm going to be selling shares, or 90 days from now, or 180 days from now, I'm going to be selling these shares. And that acts as an affirmative defense against insider trading. How can you tell me that I'm insider trading when I made plans to sell these shares half a year ago, right?
Yeah. Okay. So when people say they're planned sales, that's what they're talking about.
Correct. Yeah, they're talking about 10b5-1 plans.
Okay. So what it doesn't stop people from doing? It doesn't stop Anthony Noda from running over to little Robinhood or Kalshi and Polymarket and opening up a position there to take the short side of his trade. Just saying, nobody's paying attention to that. I mean, they said they are, but are they really?
I will bet you money that Anthony Noda is not betting in any way on SoFi stock on Kalshi.
You saw these accounts who predicted the Iran strikes were all opened like in February, and they've only ever traded on like U.S. Department of War activity.
Yeah, I mean,
just saying.
That's also just another argument, though, isn't it? That these instruments should actually, maybe not should actually. I'm not going to take a position on this, but I will say the argument is that these are being treated like securities. People are buying them with information, knowing that something's going to happen. How is that not insider information, right? I just think it's going to get really interesting here for the CFTC to try to make the argument that these are futures contracts instead of securities that should be governed under the SEC's rules, because that's effectively how people are using them. I mean, even Vlad himself says these could be hedging tools. Okay.
Yep.
Hedges are securities. Like, you can't hedge with, like, no one in sports betting ever says, "Hey, I'm gonna go long the Lakers, but I'm gonna also buy a hedge in case my bet doesn't work out." Right? That hedging is specifically a securities term. Hedge fund. It buys securities.
Yeah,
So,
no, I when I was sports betting, I definitely took hedges.
yeah, but no one calls it that, right?
Right. Well, I mean, you're talking to traders, so and finance people, so they're gonna use the lingo that they know. Small point.
But yeah, but if the goal is like, say you're long insurance companies and then you put out a Kalshi bet that is like, is a hurricane going to mess up Florida and the Gulf Coast? Like that's a hedge against your securities position. Like you own equities and then you're trying to protect those equities. So it gets really, really messy when you have two different entities trying to regulate overlapping products.
Yeah. That's why I always put on a small bet against whoever the Bengals are playing. That way, when they eventually lose, I at least feel better about the $100 I made, even though my team lost. It's emotional.
When the Bengals were in the Super Bowl, that was actually the best time to bet on the Super Bowl because, obviously as a Bengals fan, I wanted to bet on the Bengals. But shout out to all the sports betting websites because they were all doing like the $200, $100 free bets.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I actually just took the free bet that I had on DraftKings and then the free bet that I had on FanDuel, and I bet on both teams, and I won no matter what.
Yeah. See, there you go. You hedged. I don't know what. Can someone set me up a trade like that on Robinhood? Trade on Robinhood.
Speaking of Robinhood,
make it happen. I was actually in a meeting most of the evening today, so I did not have a chance to see what was going on there. I saw the WhatsApp group was popping off. I guess our boy Amit was living celebrity life or something. I don't know. Does anybody have any like real info on that?
Well, here's the event itself or the highlights. So Robinhood families, organized by family members. So you're going to have a view of basically the whole family's accounts. That way you'll just be able to manage it with better visibility. So you know what the left hand is doing and the right hand at the same time.
Okay. So you don't end up in any wash sales or anything crazy when you go do taxes. That's nice.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually changing how the accounts work. I think it's just like the visibility and permissions, right? And then you've got a new platinum card that is getting 5% cash back on dining and flights and 10% back on hotels, these are like insane numbers. But I also saw that, it's got a $695 a year annual fee. So you better be using the card a lot. Otherwise, you're just not going to make your money back.
I would make that in hotels.
Sure. Yeah, there's zero chance that I could ever make this back. I pay $200 a year for an Amex Blue Preferred. But I probably barely do better than just like a regular no annual fee card that gets you less rewards. You really have to spend a lot there to get $700 plus back, because it's not just $700 that you have to break even. You have to compare it against the opportunity cost of using a regular card or like a Chase Sapphire Reserve.
Yeah.
They gave an update on strategies, 1.5 billion AUM. And then this one I found was super interesting. Customers can now get dividends from major stocks up to 1 month before the official payment date. So
what?
They have to be floating that money for 30 days as like the company themselves. Otherwise, how
Okay.
else would they do that, right? So they're basically giving customers a free 30-day loan on dividends, which
Well,
I think they
that
can
gets
do
your
because
boy
it's such
interested real quick because you know what I just did. So, like,
a yeah. I mean, if you're like a dividend heavy portfolio and a lot of your portfolio's income, like that extra month could make a difference.
that will attract some boomers right there.
I don't know if getting paid a month early ultimately, like, it doesn't create wealth, right? It just gets you paid sooner.
Right. But sometimes you have, when you're living on dividends, sometimes you have bills and stuff come up just like anyone else. And, having a little bit of access to some funds a little bit earlier is not the worst thing in the world. It's not something you'd probably do all the time, but, it'd be taking out a loan for it, a personal loan. But I wonder if we could arbitrage that, and then there might be some interesting arbitrage opportunities there.
Potentially. I'm gonna try and
like working that against the margin in your account.
I've got Vlad here. We're gonna learn a little bit about the card,
that's
I
right.
think.
Some of you may have noticed a platinum designation on your boarding pass. What that means is you're in the first boarding group for platinum card invites. So you'll get access before everyone else. And of course, one of the perks of being me is I get the first one.
Robinhood Air. This is crazy.
What you have here is the first platinum card, and it's annoyingly heavy, which is exactly
the point.
how our platinum members are going to love it. And if you're watching on live stream, we've selected 15,000 of our gold card holders for early access to the platinum card. You're going to get a notification immediately after the keynote. And when we set out to build this card, we really imagined that if James Bond had a credit card, he would give him this one. So we think,
Dude, Vlad is such a good marketer. Like,
He's gotten me more than once.
yeah, it's
I did not get the notification.
well, you got your gold card late, right?
Yeah.
So they'll probably start with people who have had gold card for a little bit so that they at least have more like credit history. And people have like really large lines. Like to have a card like that, you would probably want to have at least a $30,000 or $50,000 line, right?
Yeah. Well, the line they were giving out to everybody, at least when I got mine through the Uzi hack, shout out to Uzi, and it was literally a hack to get yourself to the front of the line. Everyone got a 10K limit on that. So
Okay.
That's not enough to meet my monthly needs.
But it is, from the company's perspective, a pretty reasonable spot to start.
To start, for sure. And I understand they're being hyper diligent in their stuff. But I mean, let's just say I have, multiple other cards with many multiples higher limits than the Robinhood card.
Sure.
So
for your customer relationship,
sometimes I have found myself already getting close to going over the limit on the Robinhood card, like I said, and I pay it off every month. So, sometimes I've had to use another card just to give me the overhead on things.
Here's an interesting section about tax loss harvesting.
But they're worried the transition to the portfolio we recommend may result in unplanned taxes. No one likes a surprise tax bill. Well, good news. Introducing tax-aware transfers, a new service for Strategies clients. Let me show you. After receiving your assets and cost basis showing potential gains, you'll be invited to review what the transition will look like for you at the top of your dashboard. Tap Get Started, and you'll be presented with the details like this, including estimated taxes based on your stated income. And because we're here to guide you, we provide an alternative option to further reduce the estimated gains, allowing you to transfer some high gain stocks out to your self-directed account temporarily. Or if you're still not seeing what you need, you can customize what happens next by tapping on Set Target. By moving this slider, you can tell us the amount of gains that you're comfortable taking along with estimated taxes. I'll move this to 5K. We'll calculate what is needed to get you where you want to be tax-wise. Once you've decided, tap Confirm, and we'll take it from here. Now you can consolidate with us with confidence. And finally, we're working on the ability to open multiple managed individual accounts. So
maybe I'm a silly goose, but I think that is way oversimplifying taxation for selling. Like, if you're trying to optimize for taxes, I don't think this does that. It helps. It's like rudimentary, but being someone who gets asked tax questions all the time and has to explain them every single day to clients, there's a lot more that goes into it than just like a slider bar saying how much taxes I don't know.
How much I want to pay.
It's a good start.
Yeah, that's how I may decide how much money I'm taking out of my account. How much taxes do I want to pay today?
0.
Always 0.
0.
No, it's like some would be okay, but it's like, really this much? Like, I had to stomach that much risk to give this much money to y'all?
It's a good problem to have. I'd rather be paying taxes than than being in the hole and being in the red. Because if you're paying taxes, that means you made money, unless you lost it after realizing a gain. I think the last thing that we had here, going to be like a shorter episode. I came across an article talking about Vanguard and Fidelity doing a study here on their 401ks. As it turns out, about 20% of people who have 401ks are borrowing against their 401k, and we're seeing like an incremental rise in people who are actually borrowing against their 401k. Again, Vanguard and Fidelity doing the study here. Markets have gone up for 3 years in a row, and people are seeing those gains and they're cash strapped. So they're borrowing against those gains. I don't know if that's healthy. Probably not. People should probably keep their retirement money for retirement. But Dougie, did you have any thoughts on this, or like if this is even signal?
I think it is a Bears probably heyday. I mean, they're gonna love it, right? And they're gonna be trumpeting it for the next week and a half. For the reason that it's all going to zero, and the AI bubble is bursting because people are borrowing from their 401ks. What I would be really interested in is why they're doing it. Are they doing it to buy their home? Are they doing it for medical? Like, why are they doing it? Or do they just need cash? Because that is the worst reason to do it. But it's like taking out the loan, you have to pay it back anyway. Okay, hardship withdrawals.
So about 9% of workers took out a new loan. The share of workers taking a hardship withdrawal. So a hardship withdrawal, you have to qualify under certain conditions. You can't just do it because you want to do it. So hardship withdrawal, which is broken out separately, rose to 2.7% from 2.5. So on the margin, that's not that crazy, but roughly 6% of workers took a hardship withdrawal in 2025, a record high. Slightly concerning, but probably not any more damning than like if you just look at the federal debt that we owe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Not surprised. I mean, there was the whole meme about Biden's economy, Trump's economy, whatever, right? Well, the reason that they could take their loans out is because their assets were doing well in the stock market, and they had another thing going on in their lives that they weren't making enough money for, or their expenses had risen due to inflation. So,
here is
it could be something, it could be nothing. If it normalized again next year, I wouldn't think anything more about it. But I can tell you that young people have been taught that, or I should say younger workers are being taught when they start these that you can borrow against it, and you should. Like when you want to buy that house, when you want to do this project or that home improvement or whatever, this is a better, and it probably is a better source of getting a loan than a bank loan right now, given high interest rates.
Well, and if you look at just like these top three items here, this is what qualifies as hardship withdrawal. Medical expenses, obviously not going down. Cost directly related to purchasing a principal residence. I mean, that's coming around, but still at really high historical levels for home ownership. Yeah. And then tuition and educational fees, which again, going in the wrong direction. Yeah.
So and those are called hardships. So we're not talking about people that are, they have to borrow from their 401k, or they're not going to be able to make their ends meet and put food on the table. What we're talking about are people who are borrowing from their 401k to buy their home.
Well, it's both. It's a combination of both. There's definitely people who are just borrowing from their 401k because their car broke down. That's for sure happening.
I think that is less likely because it takes a lot of paperwork and time and rigmarole to get these to pay off. I mean, I looked at doing it when we bought this house, and it just and I knew it was something I shouldn't do, so we found a way to do it something else. I ended up doing a IRA, withdrawing some funds from IRA. Which you don't have to pay back, by the way. There.
Well, so we just went over the hardship numbers here.
It's just but that's not really hardship. That's somebody who's buying a house,
right?
Well, we're saying people who are buying their first house, they're the ones experiencing hardship. That sounds like we're about to hear a bunch of political theater about, all these people are experiencing hardship because there's no affordability. It's like, well, they've oversaved because they couldn't afford something for the last 3 or 4 years, and now they're able to consider making a home purchase, but they've got to get that money out of their 401k, where normally they would have put that money in their home to begin with.
Sure. I think the concerning part, though, is the share of workers with an outstanding loan in 2025 was 19.4%. That is a crazy stat that 20% of people have a loan out on their 401k. And that can't be all hardships. It isn't. And I can just tell you through personal experience of knowing people who I've talked to in my family and friends who have done 401k loans, as well as just seeing it in my line of work. There are hardship rules that people are using, but there's also people who are legitimately looking at it as a savings account, and they might even just be
Right.
cashing it out entirely, to hell with the penalty.
Yeah. For sure, a bunch of, and I say younger workers were, they were using this as a piggy bank. And so they really didn't understand that this is money that's locked up for a very long time, or it's supposed to be locked up. But then they go to then they get told by the finance company, or for whatever they're trying to buy. It could be a truck, right? And look, I know plenty of kids that are, buying a $90,000 pickup truck with their, $25 an hour job. Okay. And yeah, and the finance companies at the, buy now, or, buy here, pay here, auto loan lot are telling them, oh yeah, you can borrow against your 401k to get the down payment, so
right. Because they just want to make the sale.
I think it's going to go. I think that the practice is going to go up over time. Although, most of us old heads and people who are well educated in finance like yourself are going to say, no, this is cutting off your leg. Like, you have to let this stuff compound. This is not a cash savings account. But for so long, just the interest rates you get in your savings account is so minimal anyway. Like, who even even under the elevated rates, like, it was never enough to matter to them. So they put all their money they could, because people told them to do that as well. Put all your money in the market, right? And they were probably putting it in retirement dated funds, right? So it didn't grow very much. So now they're like, well, let me get my money out of here and do something I need to with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't understand like delayed gratification and time value of money, or even worse, you don't understand either of those things, then yeah, you're not gonna hesitate. Like, it's fictional if it's sitting in your Fidelity 401k, but the truck is real, and the truck is today.
Yep. Yep. Or home, or whatever. But it probably means, I mean, I guarantee you, there's a huge portion of people who oversaved in their 401ks, and they do not have the cash liquidity or the taxable assets to liquidate to buy their home, and so they have to tap this. Which I would say is actually a overall bullish sign for the economy, because these are people who are doing well enough to buy a house.
Well, cool. That actually runs through our agenda. I know, kind of a short show, but we just really didn't need to do like a 3-hour podcast talking about Iran. I think it's pretty well covered, and yeah, I think that's mostly what we have to say about that. Unless you wanted to talk about oil at all.
I mean, look, I can talk about geopolitics all we want, but I'm just tired of it.
Yeah, fair enough.
We got to the end of the day, and it was like, it's just been like an onslaught of that news all day long, and I'm just like, I get to talk to Austin, and finally get to talk about other stuff besides just this getting like nonstop onslaught of, it's not a war. Like, I'm just tired of hearing about it, because I really don't care. Top stock pick for 2026.
Not financial advice, folks, but we'll try and be helpful.
This year, I am not the greatest stock picker of all time. I might be one of the luckiest ones, but I'm not the greatest. I just look for companies that deliver value to their customers first. And
what about your brother? What's he buying? Your brother's the GOAT.
He's a little busy right now. For those of you who don't know, my brother is a major in the Air Force, so he's just a tad busy right now.
He's running the show.
Kieran! Kieran's on. Build-A-Bear. My boy, Cleverly Insane. Cleverly Insane.
Build-A-Bear. Didn't
Dude,
that one go
we
like nuts during COVID?
need a call, Kieran. I got stuff to tell you all about, man. Y'all, Cleverly and I started playing Mass Effect 3 together in like 2012. And then we just kind of stayed, we met over like Xbox Live. And got to be, and played other games together. And it's been probably a year, maybe a little bit more since I've talked to you, man. I did see you logged into Helldivers, but I have not been playing games in a while. But yeah, I need to give you a call, man. I need to get caught up on how you're doing.
Where's the 10
about
baggers?
that shirt? Oh, where's the 10 baggers?
Oh yeah, we can do the shirt first. Flash the shirt one time. Hell yeah.
Came in the mail today. Like I said, it was Christmas. I got my my Palantir merch order and got 2 M motors in the mail. So that was pretty awesome.
Did the Xbox Live gang, like, I'm sure I'm not the only one who felt this, but like I was looking back through old clips of like Modern Warfare 2 or like Black Ops, like back during like the golden age of Call of Duty, and just thinking about like how nuts some of those lobbies were and how you just get on the game with your boys and just game for 10 hours straight. I did the same thing with RuneScape too. And nowadays it's like,
Destiny.
Just being an adult with responsibilities and a busy schedule, man, the good old days. Do they still make games out there that are as good as that? The old Call of Duties or even Battlefield?
I mean, Destiny was really awesome. Destiny has lightsabers now. I haven't played it in a long time. I haven't played any games in a long time.
There's the 10 baggers. Ask Siege. He knows where they're at.
Yeah, Siege knows where's the dude. Siege, when are you coming on the show, man? We need a good Entangled Gains episode because Austin and I tend to talk probably more Mag 7 than we're actually interested in, but they're just the big companies that make all the big headlines.
Well, that's also just where I'm invested in too. Like I have a huge Google position. Amazon's my number 2, so that's half my portfolio right there. And that's just what makes me sleep really good at night, knowing that 5 to 10 years from now, the odds of me being up and to the right are very high, relative to what Siege does, where he's finding SMID cap and even micro cap companies, and he's like doing research on DoD.gov, trying to figure out who's like the next person to get the green light. That's where the 10 baggers are.
Yeah, what was it, Austin? What was it, Siege, that you gave to Amit? You're like, yeah, this is like to celebrate my first 20 bagger, and I'm like, man, how many of you had when you're just like, oh, this is just my first one?
Yeah, he finds a bunch of good ones.
I've had 2 20 baggers.
Let's see. Trying to think. I think just Palantir so far for me.
Palantir and D-Wave for me.
Yeah, D-Wave. I'm glad I got in on D-Wave because it seems like that thing could break out at any second. You never know when, but it could, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, cool. We'll get Siege on here at some point. Next week, we're going to have on Nietzsche Capital.
Yeah, excited.
He's an app-loving OG, and so we're going to tee him up. We're gonna sort of lay out the company, try and describe like what it is that they do in less than 5 minutes. That way, there's like a good groundwork. I'll have him introduce himself, and then we'll just do like a little fireside chat. I'll ask him a few questions, He's been one of the people who's been leading the charge on AppLovin. Ripper rally today for AppLovin up 10%. So it's now like 19% off of its lows. So strong bounce back there. And I think it's a company that a lot of people are having a hard time like understanding what it is that they do and what makes them valuable. So I think it'll be a really good episode. Obviously, we'll have stuff that happens over the next 7 days that we'll add on to that agenda that we'll cover after that fireside chat. Speaking of fireside chats, Adam, the CEO of AppLovin, he also did his own fireside chat today. So that I think that was part of the reason that the market was moving, not just high beta going up today, but I've yet to listen to the fireside chat, but I've heard nothing but good things so far. So yeah, it'll be nice to have a guest on the show, talk about one specific name for a little bit. So we'll definitely be doing that next Wednesday, same time as usual, like 9:45, 10ish Eastern, whenever we're able to jump on. So if any of you guys have questions, by the way, hit me in the DMs or text me if you have my number. We'd love to have some good questions. I'm going to have plenty on my own, but if there's something about the company that you wanted to know, this is the guy to ask. Anything else you wanted to cover, Doug, before we sign off?
Nope.
All right.
Like I said, a little bit of a short week, but we had an extra long Saturday night episode. I actually really liked that too. We could just kind of hang out a little more and yeah. So
well, cool. That does it for us. Thanks, everyone. Links as always down below: Twitter's, YouTube's, Street Exchange, and thanks for being here. We are out of here. Peace.
Bye, everybody.